there. Welcome to Storytime. I'm Dr. Jennifer Bird. I'm a biblical scholar, and I care very much about what people do with what they find in the Bible. And my aunt just walked up, wants to join us today, but I don't think I'm going to get her I don't think I'll get her up into my lap. But anyway, hello. I'm so delighted that some of you are able to join me. This is kind of a random day and time for me to go live, and just wanted to keep reading the Genesis story. So here we are. Thank you for all the ways. All the ways that you all support me and the work I'm trying to do here as a public biblical scholar. I appreciate when you subscribe to my channel, when you tell a friend about something that I've done, share a video with a friend, when you like or comment on videos. I also appreciate the ways that you are supporting me either through Patreon or through memberships in my channel. I'm about to release a few videos that you'll have access to only at certain levels, and that feels kind of official to be able to do that. Anyway, so working on some things related to Paul, actually, that I'll be releasing soon. So hopefully in the next week or two. And very excited about that work. I also want to remind people, if you like the kind of thing I'm doing here in terms of just kind of some honesty about what's in the Bible, I want to remind you that I also have been on a podcast that's professionally developed called Wild Olive. I'm going to reach back here. You can find it anywhere you get podcasts. We have 3 seasons. We're in the middle of the 4th season, and we're getting different contributors. So it was just Jean Patrol, my podna, and I for the first 3 seasons, and now we have some other people contributing. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see what kind of direction or what kind of what kinds of conversations we stir up there that way. But the first 3 seasons are Jean Patrol and I doing conversations. She's a literature professor, and she taught the Bible as literature for 20 years. And so we have really fun conversations about literature, poetry, short stories, cultural movements that engage biblical topics or characters. Hang on a second. Hi, baby. Hi. You want to come join us? No. Okay. Anyway, so Wild Olive. Yeah, thank you, Anina. I appreciate that. I just came from a board meeting, actually, for our institute. So it's on my mind. And just want to let you know that it's out there as well. So I am, this just makes me happy. Hi, Snow Kitsune. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad everyone is here, who's able to be here, wants to be here, is here. So thank you for that. I don't think I have any other kinds of announcement type things. I think I'm just gonna jump into doing this. So this past week, so 2 days ago on Thursday, my usual time for going live, we read that horrific story about Isaac, with the story about Hagar and Ishmael, which is in and of itself, we read that a couple weeks ago, but then the kind of deciding to disown Hagar and Ishmael, and how that takes place, and that from there moving forward, the narrator always says, even puts into God's own mouth, that Abraham has only one son. And that was something that I actually spent a lot of time thinking about after the live stream on Thursday, because of how many times that actually does play out for people in their life, like when parents split up and go start a second family or whatever, or additional families, and how the first children sometimes end up feeling neglected, right? They don't get the good version of that parent, right? The parent was, in this marriage that wasn't great, and everything was kind of dysfunctional, right? And so that's partly perhaps why they're not a great parent. And then they go start another family, and they're a great parent in that family. I don't know. I was reflecting on that, and how that's a thing that hasn't changed over the centuries, right? In terms of real life, real human experiences, realities, regardless of time and place, right? That this is a thing. Oh, hi, how fun to see a new member. Someone else just joined um, one of my memberships. I appreciate that. Um, Veer in Nitere. Oh dear, is that strength in something? Anyway, okay. So yeah, so I've just been reflecting on that part, and then of course the trauma that Isaac experienced as a young boy or teenager. People like to get worked up over that, like which is it, and it doesn't. I mean, it seems that he's young, and that's even worse, right? Because that kind of a traumatic thing to an 8-year-old has a much deeper impact than it would to a teenager. It's still difficult for a teenager to have your father wrap you up in rope and draw a knife, over you. Not a thing you want to, not an image you actually want to have in your head, but way more devastating to have that happen to you as an 8-year-old, right? Oh, I don't know why. I'm like, oh, this is so fun. Hi, Cheryl. It's nice to have you with us, and I'm glad you joined us. This is reading Genesis in the Transparent English Bible Edition. Is that a comment? Is that an actual translation, or are you commenting on the way I try to talk about the languages? I'm not quite sure. Oh, sorry. I was going to jump into the story, but I'm having more fun just kind of reading your comments here. Hi from Louisville. Hey, Alan. Where the heat of hell would be a cold relief. I've never heard that phrase before. I like that. Okay. Yeah, so I've kind of been mulling it over, and I have in the past as well, right? I'm sure many of you have as well. Like that's a pretty traumatic thing to have happen. And in true, dysfunctional form, never talk about it, right? Like it's not like we get to see Abraham pulling Isaac aside and saying, yeah, that was really jacked up what I did. I'm so sorry. I was under a trance. Like there's no talking about like I almost just took your life the other day when we went for a hike, and I'm really feeling bad about that. Like, like how do not happening, right? There's no unpacking of that. And how does that what kind of just serious trauma? It just, the use of humans, right? The use of humans to in these stories to make a point or to deliver some other idea. It's just so callous. It's so callous, right? The use of women's bodies, the use of this child of, if we're going to read it on face value, kind of take it at, this child of their old age, and he's told to go slaughter it. Like, it's just so callous. I don't care what kind of a thing, bigger picture story you're trying to tell here, right? Is, people say that this was a way to say, we won't be sacrificing children in this particular, worshiping this God. I think that's possible, but I don't think that's the only thing going on there. But that doesn't matter. Like these are sacred texts that people are reading uncritically and focusing on the parts that the narrator points us to focus on and ignoring all of the trauma and all the harm that's happening underneath. Like, what kind of a young man is Isaac going to grow up to be? Like, that's just not that doesn't bode well for him, does it? And that's why I refer to it as the, underappreciated story. Like, he's also kind of this afterthought in the patriarchs' stories, right? Abraham gets this, obviously, because he's getting the ball rolling in a sense. Lots of interesting details, horrific way of treating humans, right? Over and over. And then Isaac is kind of this, the bridge to Jacob, and who we'll read next time, and read about all the women in his life and the children and all that stuff. But Isaac gets a bit of a short shrift on this, I think. So, reflecting on, he is one of the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? What, some scholars have suggested, right, that, it's, none of it's actual history, right? We need to be clear about that, right? These patriarchs are not, we cannot verify them. It doesn't matter that we can't verify them, but they're fictional, right? But we're building nations on them and off of their children and based on their children. And but what kind of character do these guys have, you know? And so I was trying to mull that over, and I will probably be forming thoughts about that as we read, because I'm not sure that I've read through read Isaac's story with that particular question in mind. I've always just been thinking about, all right, what does this show us about marriage, for instance, you know, and uh, so what does it show? You know, what kinds of things are we seeing there? So what, you know, excuse me, the situation that Rebecca is put in because she's in a patriarchal system, right? And so she has to play along, find ways to play along. I just binged American Primeval, and which I think is, you know, loosely historical, and there's it's about the American. It's very complicated. It's about people on this continent that I live on, and some of the ventures out west. And the part that matters here, why I'm bringing this up, is the Mormon Church, the Mormon Church that was establishing itself out in Utah, is also plays a role. And one of the women, who is the first wife, the first woman for this guy, is kind of a key player in the storyline. And you know, I enjoyed her. I enjoyed her character because she's not. You can't quite tell if she actually has bought into the whole system, you know, but she's playing along. She knows she has to play along, and comments about, you know, well, it's not safe for a woman. There's a woman in the story with a child, and she's trying to get the child to safety, and it's not safe for a woman to travel with a child alone. And wasn't that why we get married? You know, it's just not safe in this world for women. Anyway, I don't know why. I just her character resisting the system, and in fact, I don't know if it's spoiler if anyone else is going to watch that. It's a lovely, brutal short series. I guess I kind of needed some of that yesterday. I don't know. Yeah, lots of interesting commentary about humans and when we misread people, right? When we misread people's intentions, and then we're only seeing one layer of the reaction to what has already been transpiring for a while, and then we mischaracterize people based on this thing in front of us and not having the full history there. Interesting things about interactions between white people and people already living on this continent. Commentaries about safety and, you know, love. And anyway, I guess I'm endorsing American Primeval. It was a fun little show, fun series to watch. Okay. And always looking at how men speak very, very entitled, that they are entitled to these women in their lives. And yeah, the way their possessions. So anyway, and what are the options, right? What are the options? Okay, so let's get back to Genesis, reading story time. So chapter 23, I'm going to go over here so I can do this scrolling. But so we left off at the end of chapter 22. I think I read just a little bit of this just to kind of get us on to the next phase here. So I'm going to reread part of chapter 23. But chapter 22, you know, ends with this traumatic event for for Isaac, and then we don't see any of the fallout. Like, we don't know how that plays out when Abraham goes home. And then they move on to talk about like water or land or something, you know, like we're really moving through the story and we're not pausing to do any kind of debrief on being obedient to God and to God's commands. That's the big message there, right, in that story. Abraham's faith, trust that God will deliver. So when I was researching for Marriage in the Bible, I came across an article by, I think by a rabbi, and excuse me, he was a chaplain, a Jewish chaplain. And he had observed this thing about Sarah, that perhaps she actually leaves Abraham because he has to travel to go bury her. So that's kind of I kind of love that, right? I love that there is one woman who stands up to all this crap. And I hadn't even noticed it. I had to have someone else point it out to me, and it's certainly not something I ever hear people talk about. So let's look at this part of the story, and then we'll keep going to Isaac. So Sarah lived 127 years. This was the length of Sarah's life. And Sarah died at Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan, or Canaan. And Abram went in to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her. Abraham rose up from beside his dead and said to the Hittites, I am a stranger and an alien residing among you. Give me property among you for a burying place, so that I may bury my dead out of my sight. The Hittites answered Abraham, Hear us, my lord. You are a mighty prince among us. Bury your dead in the choicest of our burial places. None of us will withhold from you any burial ground for burying your dead. Over and over in the narrative, other people, step up and offer Abraham respect, right? There's no reason to call him a mighty prince in the storyline yet. So it's just really great propaganda, isn't it? We're going to give you the choicest of burial places. Who does that? No. He's an alien, right? He's living among them. And okay, so yes, it's very, very grand gesture here on their part. Abraham rose and bowed to the Hittites, the people of the land. He said to them, If you are willing that I should bury my dead out of my sight, hear me and entreat for me Ephron, son of Zohar, so that he may give me the cave of Machpelah, which he owns. It is at the end of his field. For the full price, let him give it to me in your presence as a possession for a burying place. This guy is interesting, isn't he, Abraham? These deals that he sets up and forces people into. I don't know. I find it really fascinating. Okay, now Ephron was sitting among the Hittites, and Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham in the hearing of the Hittites, of all who went in at the gate of his city. No, my lord, hear me. I give you the field, and I give you the cave that is in it. In the presence of my people, I give it to you. Bury your dead. Then Abraham bowed down before the people of the land. He said to Ephron, in the hearing of the people of the land, If you only will listen to me, I will give the price of the field. Accept it from me, so that I may bury my dead there. Ephron answered Abraham, My lord, listen to me. A piece of land worth 400 shekels of silver. What is that between you and me? Bury your dead. Abraham agreed with Ephron, and Abraham weighed out for Ephron the silver that he had named in the hearing of the Hittites, 400 shekels of silver, according to the weights current among the merchants. So the field of Ephron in Machpelah, which was to the east of Mamre, the field with the cave that was in it, and all the trees that were in the field throughout its whole area, passed to Abraham as a possession in the presence of the Hittites, in the presence of all who went in at the gate of his city. After this, Abraham buried Sarah, his woman, in the cave of the field of Machpelah, facing Mamre, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. The field and the cave that is in it passed from the Hittites into Abraham's possession as a burying place. It feels a little bit like protesteth too much, we had it announced 4 or 5 different ways here, right? That this is choice land. It is being passed along to Abraham. He tried to buy it. They they resisted. They did the playful, respectful, honoring of him, resisting payment, and then, of course, they find a way to let him know how much it's worth, right? And he pays it, and this whole thing about the land, it's very. I used to read it as a thing, as a truth, that God promised this land, and it took a while for me to get to the place of, "Oh, wait, no, even that is made up," right? What is it? What's the need here? What are these ancient storytellers trying to communicate to us that they needed? They needed stability, right? They needed a place to establish themselves. They didn't have it. Or they are living in the land already and they want to distinguish themselves from some of their neighbors, however you want to look at that. But that's what's going on. And I think and so 2000 plus years later, people have been telling this story as if it's real, right? And it therefore becomes real in people's minds and it's treated as real. And that's, a big piece of what's happening between Israel and Gaza right now is happening. This land, the arguing over the land. And it was promised and promised and promised. And then, no, not even that, but Abraham even paid for a little sliver of it. And it's his. It's to be his. It's to be his descendants. I don't know. I just. When a physical need, right, a place to live, to establish oneself, becomes immortalized in this kind of a promise, it's just, it's had a lasting effect. It's been powerful for over the centuries. Okay, we have someone talking about Robert Alter over here. That's a great comment. Thank you, Beetle86. I had David being destroyed for me last week watching The Rise and Fall of Biblical Israel by Joel Baden, and now it's Abraham. This is fun. I'm so glad. This is interesting. Robert Alter says that here Abraham is extorted to pay a vastly over large amount. He has to pay it if he's going to have a place to bury Sarah. That's a very interesting. Yeah, I've got nothing on that, right? I don't know. Could be, really could be. But for me, I also just want to focus it on the fact that it isn't, he had to travel to go bury her, right? It wasn't, well, it's not consistent in the narrative, I guess, enough to know, but it seems that he has actually traveled to go bury her. And the Christian scriptures hold up Sarah as someone to emulate one time, and that is in the letter of 1 Peter and in chapter 3. And she is held up as someone to emulate because she wasn't terrified when she was put into frightening situations, which is, she's being pimped out. That's the one time she's held up as someone to emulate. And I love that this is in there, that we could be holding her up as someone to emulate because she said, "I'm not putting up with that. You almost killed my son. I'm not sharing a roof with you anymore." She drops out of the narrative. Anyway, I love that. Okay, so let's keep going. Let's get on to Isaac here. And again, the headings are misleading. It's not a marriage of Isaac and Rebekah. It is an enslaved person goes and purchases Rebekah for him. So no verb to marry, no term that we could liken to marriage in our context in the whole story, right? So now Abraham was old, advanced in years, and the Lord had blessed Abraham in all things. Abram said to his servant, and I want to be clear, this is slave, right? Not someone who is enslaved lives in his house, right? The oldest of his house, so one of many, who had charge of all that he had, put your hand under my thigh, and I will make you swear by the Lord, the God of heaven and earth, that you will not get a woman for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites among whom I live, but will go to my country and to my kindred and get a woman for my son Isaac. It's really interesting. I know people tend to get hung up on this. Put your hand under my thigh, and what's going on there, and that's just kind of creepy. It's obviously putting Abraham in a vulnerable situation, but he's so demanding of everybody, right? I'm gonna make you swear. I will make you swear, right? You're gonna do this. But it's just very fascinating. you know, what are we supposed to anyway? The servant, the slave said to him, "Perhaps the woman may not be willing to follow me to this land. Must I then take your son back to the land from which you came?" Abram said to him, "See to it that you do not take my son back there. No, the Lord, the God of heaven, who took me from my father's house and from the land of my birth, and who spoke to me and swore to me, 'To your offspring I will give this land,' he will send his angel before you, and you shall take a woman for my son from there. But if the woman is not willing to follow you, then you will be free from this oath of mine. Only you must not take my son back there. Do not return. We need to keep the claim to the land going here, right?" So the slave put his hand under the thigh of Abraham, his master, and swore to him concerning the matter. It just feels very power dynamic-y, abuse, like manipulative. I don't know. Yeah. Then the slave took 10 of his master's camels and departed, taking all kinds of choice gifts from his master. And he set out and went to Aram Naharaim, to the city of Nahor. He made the camels kneel down outside the city by the well of water. It was toward evening, the time when women go out to draw water. And he said, "O Lord God of my master, Abraham, please grant me success today and show steadfast love to my master Abraham. I am standing here by the spring of water, and the daughters of the townspeople are coming out to draw water. Let the young woman to whom I shall say, 'Please offer your jar that I may drink,' and who shall say, 'Drink, and I will water your camels,' let her be the one whom you have appointed for yourself, for your servant Isaac." That would also be slave. I had not noticed that. "By this I shall know that you have shown steadfast love to my master." I do, this is a pretty specific demand, right? Sometimes people pray for specifics, they ask God. They put out into the world this specific prayer requests and prayer, manipulation of the God, right? But this is really fascinating to me, right? The slave is demanding, right? Abraham has told people, has manipulated people, and has demanded things of people. Now the slave is behaving in the same way, right? As the leader is, so the people will be. Anyway, so before he had finished speaking, there was Rebekah, who was born to Bethuel, son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother. So Milcah and Nahor is Abraham's brother, Milcah is his sister-in-law in this case, and their son Bethuel is the father of Rebekah, right? So Rebekah is Nahor's granddaughter, so Abraham's great niece, okay? According to the story. So there was Rebekah coming out with her water jar on her shoulder. The young woman was very fair to look upon, a virgin whom no man had known. I want to go look that up in the Hebrew. She went down to the spring, filled her jar, and came up. Then the servant ran to meet her and said, "Please let me sip a little water from your jar." "Drink, my lord," she said, and quickly lowered her jar upon her hand and gave him a drink. When she had finished giving him a drink, she said, "I will draw for your camels also until they have finished drinking." Sorry. So she quickly emptied her jar into the trough and ran again to the well to draw. And she drew for all his camels. I mean, 10 camels. It's a lot of water, right? The man gazed at her in silence to learn whether or not the Lord had made his journey successful. All kinds of things we could say about this, right? You just announced that this is going to be your successfulness, right? This is, anyway. Anyway, when the camels had finished drinking, the man took okay, it's really interesting to pay attention to the content, the items that he does use to purchase her, because you'll see the same list in the prophets when through the prophets God is yelling at the people, and there will be a similar list of things that God used to purchase Israel as his bride or as his woman or whatever. And you'll see it in other places as well. There's a reference to it, I think, in Song of Songs. But this is a very clear description of all the stuff that he has brought in order to purchase her. Okay. So when the camels had finished drinking, the man took a gold nose ring weighing half a shekel and 2 bracelets for her arms weighing 10 gold shekels and said, "Tell me whose daughter you are. Is there room in your father's house for us to spend the night?" She said to him, "I'm the daughter of Bethuel, son of Milcah, whom she bore to Nahor." She added, "We have plenty of straw and fodder and a place to spend the night." The man bowed his head and worshipped the Lord and said, "Blessed be the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who has not forsaken his steadfast love and his faithfulness toward my master. As for me, the Lord has led me on the way to the house of my master's kin." Then the young woman ran and told her mother's household about these things. Rebekah had a brother whose name was Laban, and Laban ran out to the man, to the spring. As soon as he had seen the nose ring and the bracelets on his sister's arms, and when he heard the words of his sister Rebekah, "Thus the man spoke to me," he went to the man, and there he was, standing by the camels at the spring. He said, "Come in, O blessed of the Lord. Why do you stand outside when I have prepared the house and a place for the camels?" Um, just a quick clarification. "Come in, O blessed of the Lord." It's a really, again, this is really interesting because there isn't this tradition built up yet around this God, right? This is second generation of Abraham to his child, and we don't have that. Like, if we're going to treat this like a narrative that took place, that isn't established yet, right? So obviously we're putting words in people's mouths here, but why do you stand outside when the house is ready, right? So the man came into the house. Notice that the slave, does not have a name in any of this. And Laban unloaded the camels and gave him straw and fodder for the camels and water to wash his feet and the feet of the men who were with him. Then food was set before him to eat. But he said, "I will not eat until I have told my errand." "Speak on." So he said, "I am Abraham's slave. The Lord has greatly blessed my master, and he has become wealthy. He has given him flocks and herds, silver and gold, male and female slaves, camels and donkeys." And we should point out this was all at the expense of Sarah and her body, but anyway. "And Sarah, my master's woman, bore a son to my master when she was old, and he has given him all that he has." Right? So Ishmael is definitely, no longer in the picture for this narrative. My master made me swear, saying, "You shall not take a woman for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites in whose land I live, but you shall go to my father's house, to my kindred, and get a woman for my son." I said to my master, "Perhaps the woman will not follow me." But he said to me, "The Lord before whom I walk will send his angel with you and make your way successful. You shall get a woman for my son from my kindred, from my father's house. Then you will be free of my oath when you come to my kindred. Even if they will not give her to you, you will be free of my oath." I came today to the spring and said, "Oh Lord, God of my master Abraham, if now you will only make successful the way I am going. I am standing here by the spring of water. Let the young woman who comes out to draw, to whom I shall say, 'Please give me a little water from your jar to drink,' and who will say to me, 'Drink, and I will draw for your camels also.' Let her be the woman whom the Lord has appointed for my master's son." I just have to chuckle at it, right? I mean, it's a that's not how those kinds of things work. Anyway, before I had finished speaking in my heart, there was Rebecca coming out with her water jar on her shoulder, and she went down to the spring and drew. I said to her, "Please let me drink." She quickly let down her jar from her shoulder and said, "Drink, and I will also water your camels." So I drank, and she also watered the camels. Then I asked her, "Whose daughter are you?" She said, "The daughter of Bethuel, Nahor's son, whom Milcah bore to him." So I put the ring on her nose and the bracelets on her arms. Then I bowed my head and worshiped the Lord and blessed the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who had led me by the right way to obtain the daughter of my master's kinsman for his son. Now then, if you will deal loyally and truly with my master, tell me. And if not, tell me, so that I may turn either to the right hand or to the left. I'm getting out of here, right? If this isn't going to be a thing. Then Laban and Bethuel answered. Laban and Bethuel, so the brother and the father, right? "The thing comes from the Lord. We cannot speak to you anything bad or good. Look, Rebekah is before you. Take her and go, and let her be the woman of your master's son, as the Lord has spoken." The Lord didn't speak any of this. Abraham did, and then the servant did. The Lord did not speak. Anyway, when Abraham's this always makes me giggle because we have a narrator who is putting into the servant's mouth wanting to tell the whole story, right? We just read it, and now he's retelling the exact same thing. And people say that women like are chatty, but this is a man who's just has to tell the whole story. It's just la 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 la. And where is Rebecca in all of this, right? Like she's just a pawn over here on the side, and this is an exchange between men, right? This is the servant who isn't named, but we've been told he's male, and he is having an interaction with the brother and the father of this woman. And it's all just their stuff. It's their story. It's their, whatever, their successfulness or succeeding and finding what he was sent to get. And poor Rebecca has to watch it all take place. Anyway, when Abram's servant heard their words, so they said, "Take her, go, let her be, let her be, as you've said." So when Abram's slave heard their words, he bowed himself to the ground before the Lord. And the servant and the slave brought out jewelry of silver and of gold and garments and gave them to Rebekah. He also gave to her brother and to her mother costly ornaments. Then he and the men who were with him ate and drank, and they spent the night there. When they rose in the morning, he said, "Send me back to my master." Her brother and her mother said, "Let the young woman remain with us a while, at least 10 days. After that she may go." But he said to them, "Do not delay me, since the Lord has made my journey successful. Let me go that I may go to my master." They said, "We will call the young woman and ask her." Wow. A young woman gets to have a say in something that dramatically impacts her life. And they called Rebecca and said to her, "Will you go with this man?" She said, "Yeah, I will." So they sent away their sister Rebecca and her nurse. along with Abraham's slave and his men. So many things, right? So many questions about this. They didn't actually say, will you go right now? Do you need a few days to wrap things up here with us? Anyway, so they sent her away, Rebekah and her nurse, along with Abraham's slave and his men. And they blessed Rebekah and said to her, may you, our sister, become thousands of myriads. May your offspring gain possession of the gates of their foes. It's a very interesting way to bless a person, right? A woman, may you be very fruitful, and may the descendants of yours become quite numerous, and may your offspring be thieves and conquerors in battle. Okay. Then Rebekah and her maids rose up, mounted the camels, and followed the man. And the servant took Rebekah and went his way. Now, Isaac had come from Beer Lahai Roi and was settled in the Negev. Isaac went out in the evening to walk in the field. Let's see what this becomes, what they say about this. Oh, okay. And looking up, he saw camels coming. And Rebekah looked up. And when she saw Isaac, she slipped quickly from the camel and said to the slave, who's the man over there walking in the field to meet us? The servant said, it is my master. So she took her veil and covered herself. And the servant told Isaac all the things that he had done. Fortunately, they don't recount it one more time. Then Isaac brought her into his mother Sarah's tent. He took Rebekah, and she became his woman, and he loved her. So Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. This language of he took Rebekah and she became his wife, in the English, his woman, is a way of saying he took her and they went and had sex, right? I mean, that's just so we're clear. That's what happens. In Genesis 12, when it says Sarah was given to the Pharaoh as a woman, as a wife, that means they had sex. I haven't looked into it. I don't know what the significance is here with him taking his woman into his mother Sarah's tent. I don't know the meaning or the implication there. It does make me a little bit uncomfortable, it's one of the many roles that spouses fill for each other, right? Is comfort when they lose their parents. So there is that. It's lovely. But also, anyway. Okay, let's just keep going. It's funny. It's just funny what these people are telling us about themselves when they do this. Let me come back over here, see if there's women erasing history diminishes in penetration. Yeah. Thank you for that, Tom. I appreciate that. Dromedary camels were not used before 300 BCE. I would encourage you to consider using BCE instead of BC. Very interesting. Are there any other comments that I wanted to? The shakedown. Trying to shake him down for more stuff. Trying to shake down this slave for more things. Anyway. So there's an interesting comment here. Abraham had no idea Rachel. Well, this is Rebekah at this point. He was just filling out a Tinder profile for her son Isaac. Right, and we do get the same family that for Jacob, right? So Laban is Rebekah's brother, right? And so Rebekah goes and becomes the woman to Isaac, and then she has children, and one of those twins then takes one of their cousins, right? Two of their cousins as their wives. Yeah, it's very interesting. Okay. Okay, I guess I should take that off. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. Susan often makes some interesting conversation. You all make interesting contributions in chat or whatever, but asking for water and saying sure. Talk. So, what is the Hebrew for people of the land? Yeah, people of the land. Haaretz. I asked because that's a phrase used as a derogatory term in Ezra Nehemiah. Yeah, the people of the land, the Haaretz. I wonder if there's a follow-up on that as well. Yes, that's right. Is there something else about that? People of the land. Sometimes it is used in a positive way to talk about. Well, sometimes it's used to refer to Israel and Judah, the people. But yeah, so it works both ways. Yeah, that's certainly the thought that went through my mind as well. Snow Katsuni, a bit of a mama's boy. The whole taking Rebecca into his mom's tent kind of makes me think of Isaac being a mama's boy, and probably for good reason. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a kind of a two edges on that one, right? Because the trauma, if we're playing along with the narrative, is actually what transpired, right? He's certainly not going to be cozying up to his dad anytime soon, right? Okay, should we keep going? We could do a few more minutes. I have yeah, let's. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Yes. I have this sudden suspicion that half the camels in the story were rentals to make the entourage look more impressive. That's fun. That's fun. Okay. Oh my gosh. Yes. People of the land versus hard are people of the land. Yeah, there is that as well, isn't there? The Isaac taking his woman into his mother's tent. Yes, there's that, the Oedipal side to that. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Oh, we've got some fun comments happening here today. Okay, so I think I'm going to keep going just a few minutes longer because I can, and I'm in a mood to do this. So again, I just keep saying it, but there is no verb to marry in the Hebrew Bible. So I don't know if this is news to some of you, but one of the most shocking things for me to discover as a scholar many years ago was this reality that we shouldn't be using husband and wife in the Hebrew Bible or in the Newer Testament because they don't distinguish between a woman when she belongs to her father and a woman when she's been purchased by a man. She's still just a woman. They don't give her a different label, and they don't give the man who does that purchasing a different label the way we tend to, which is a single man or a bachelor or a bachelorette, single people versus married, husband and wife. We acknowledge a status has changed, a relationship change there by giving this label. They don't have that in the Hebrew. Same goes for the verb to marry. I talk about this in the chapter Matter of Terminology, as well as in chapter 2, because that's one of the biggest places for most people that I interact with is in Genesis 2, verse 24. It says, therefore, man shall leave his parents and cling to his woman. That's what it says in the Hebrew. And what every single English translation says is his wife. And so implying that you get married before you have sex and yada, yada. So the verb there is, there isn't a ceremony in that chapter. It's just he takes a woman and he has sex with, they live together. So this thing about marrying, and Abraham marries Keturah. Now, Abraham takes another woman. If we look at the Hebrew here, it's just Abraham took another woman. That's it. They just like we just sent a slave out to purchase a woman for Isaac. She's family even, and we're still paying for her. He's not marrying anyone. He's taking a woman. These men are taking women. That's it. They go out, they find a woman they want, they purchase her. Okay. There's no ceremony that we know of, not at this point. So anyway, Abraham took another woman whose name was Keturah. She bore him Zimran, Jokshan. I've done this recently. Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. Jokshan was the father of Sheba and Dedan. The sons of Dedan were Asherim, Letushim, and Leumim. The sons of Midian were Ephah, Epher, Hanoch, Abida, and Eldaah. All these were the children of Keturah. Abraham gave all he had to Isaac, but to the sons of his concubines, Abraham gave gifts while he was still living. And he sent them away from his son Isaac eastward to the east country. So this idea of Abraham having one son, right, is BS, right? Because clearly he has at least two up until this point, and he just decides to disown that one. And then all of these are the children of his concubines, so he gets to pretend they don't count, right? This is great parenting. I don't have to provide for you because you're just from my side piece. And it's also interesting because this verse, the story itself undermines itself, right? To the sons of his concubines, right? She's just a concubine, and we don't, but up here she was called a wife. Well, that's even the story itself undermines this translation choice. The translation choice, to use the word wife is just deeply misleading, and it leads people to think of these patriarchs differently than they have earned or deserve. Okay. So I'm going to send you all away. Like I sent Ishmael away. I'm scattering my seed around the world. This is the length of Abraham's life, 175 years. Abraham breathed his last and died in a good old age, old and full of years, and was gathered to his people. His sons. Oh, there we go. We're actually acknowledging Ishmael. His sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah, in the field of Ephron, son of Zohar the Hittite, east of Mamre, the field that Abraham purchased from the Hittites. There Abraham was buried with his woman Sarah. After the death of Abraham, God blessed his son Isaac, and Isaac settled at Beer Lahai Roi. It is very interesting. I don't think I'd ever noticed this before, right? That Ishmael is brought back into the story and acknowledged as his son, because we do have other, parts of this story where they're putting words into God's mouth that God is saying, I'm going to take your son, your only son, right? Anyway, okay, so this is all fun and interesting. Ishmael's descendants. These are the descendants of Ishmael, Abraham's son, whom Hagar the Egyptian, Sarah's slave, bore to Abraham. These are the names of the sons of Ishmael, named in the order of their birth. Nebaioth, the firstborn of Ishmael, and Kedar, Abdil, Mibsam, Mishma, Duma, Massa, Hadad, Tema, Yetur, Naphish, and Kedema. These are the sons of Ishmael, and these are their names, by their villages and by their encampments, 12 princes according to their tribes. This is the length of the life of Ishmael, 137 years. He breathed his last and died and was gathered to his people. It's a nice little phrase to use, right? They breathed their last, died, and gathered to their people. They settled from Havilah to Shur. which is opposite Egypt in the direction of Assyria. He settled down alongside all his people. What's being said there? He fell down or opposition. Interesting. So Ishmael is acknowledged again. Very interesting. And as was promised back in chapter 16 or whatever, he's going to be the head of a great nation. 12 sons, just like his brother, his half brother's grandchildren, right? The birth and youth of Esau and Jacob. Okay, so I'm going to keep reading because this is about Isaac as much as it is about Esau, Jacob, and Rebekah. And one of the things about the story, this part of the story, is the issue of favoritism, right? The favoritism on the part of the parent or maybe just the father. And then, of course, the sketchiness, right? That Rebekah and Jacob team up to be sneaky and to be deceptive. And we have this storyline playing out throughout these three primary generations, where instead of the first child getting the first son getting the all the blessing, it's going to the second, or to, in the case of Jacob, it's multiple, but it's not the firstborn. The firstborn isn't getting all the goods the way they're supposed to get. It's the second, or the underdog, or whatever. So that happened with Ishmael and Isaac, right? Isaac is the favorite of the two. And then we have Esau and Jacob, who are twins, and Esau comes out first. And so he should have the birthright and get all the blessing. So we're going to read through this, and then I will wrap up for today. So these are the descendants of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham was the father of Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah, daughter of Bethuel, the Aramean of Padan Aram, sister of Laban, the Aramean. All kinds of thoughts running through my head about those locations. And anyway, Isaac prayed to the Lord for his woman because she was barren. And the Lord granted his prayer, and his woman Rebekah conceived. So again, that reference in Genesis 3:16, when you will struggle in childbirth. You will struggle to have with this realm called childbirth, right? All three generations of women in this family struggle with getting pregnant. He prayed to the Lord for his woman because she was barren, and the Lord granted his prayer, and his wife Rebekah conceived. The children struggled together within her, and she said, "If it is to be this way, why do I live?" I can imagine that can be. Anyway, I have to imagine. I've not brought any children into the world. So she went in to inquire of the Lord, and the Lord said to her, she needed some reassurance on this pregnancy, I guess, right? 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples born of you shall be divided. The one shall be stronger than the other. The elder shall serve the younger. Again, these women are getting some really unpleasant promises and blessings, right? Messages from the Lord. When her time to give birth was at hand, there were twins in her womb. We've already established that. The first came out red, all his body like a hairy mantle, so they named him Esau, which is similar to the word for red. Afterward, his brother came out with his hand gripping Esau's heel, so he was named Jacob. He supplants Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when she bore them. It's always an interesting piece of the story that she'd been with him for 20 years before she conceived. When the boys grew up, Esau was a skillful hunter, a man of the field, while Jacob was a quiet man living in tents. Isaac loved Esau because he was fond of game, but Rebekah loved Jacob. This is one of those moments I'm going to pause to endorse my friend Pearson Toscano's work. he has a video called Transfigurations, transgressing gender in the Bible, I think. Let's see, Peterson. Let me do this real quick. Peterson Toscano. All right, let me show you this. He's now doing climate awareness stuff, but let's see. Do we have a link to his? Yeah. Okay, let me come over here and stop sharing, and we're gonna share. If you haven't seen it, I use it in classes when I have face-to-face classes. I love his video. I love this video so much. Joseph and the Amazing Gender Nonconforming. So he does these bits about, he takes a handful of characters, I think it's maybe 5, from the 2 primary testaments for the Christian Bible. And Jacob is one of them that he kind of reimagines or imagines and fills in some of the gaps. And his depiction of Jacob is phenomenal. So I think you can get it. I don't know if you all think that's playing.
In the Bible, Esau is portrayed as this hairy guy, like super hairy, outdoorsman, hunter kind of guy, leads with his...
So can you all hear that, or is it just me? Yeah, thank you for that, Pragmatic Crystal. There is that. That is always a concern. So I'm not sure if when I'm playing that you all can hear it, but you can hear. Oh, thank you, Anina. I appreciate that. So, let me just play a little bit more of this because I just think he's so great.
His gut. He's off, he'll come in from a hunt saying, "Feed me, I'm so hungry." Well, his brother, Jacob, on the other hand, maybe his twin, but not his identical twin. He was very smooth, it says in the text. We learn a lot about his body, not a lot of body hair. He was very sensitive in his temperament, it said. And he didn't go out and hunt like his brother. Instead, he dwelt amongst the tents with the women. And in fact, while his brother Esau was out hunting, Jacob was a fabulous cook. And it's interesting, you actually don't see a lot of cooking by men in the Bible. I mean, you have Jacob doing it, and then you have men offering burnt offerings unto the Lord, kind of like a holy barbecue to God. But in the Hebrew Bible, there's almost no male preparing food like this. Now, in the Christian Bible, you do have Jesus doing some food preparation. There's like large-scale catering that he does, like multitudes. And then there's that like fish fry towards the end, post-resurrection. But actually preparing a meal, that is something exclusively for females. So you have Esau, you have Jacob. They're these 2 brothers, gender differently. Now, Jacob clearly is heterosexual in the way he partners with people and has multiple sexual partners and lots of children. But he's gendered differently. And he has a very special son, a famous son, Joseph. Joseph is very different from his brothers. There's some interesting gender differences I've noticed about Joseph. And in fact, there's one thing I noticed in the Hebrew that I didn't see in English. And so I want to share with you the story of Joseph and reveal this mystery about him in the text. I'll weave it into the performance. And to change the perspective a little bit, I want a different person to tell the story. I want to see the story of Joseph from the perspective of his uncle Esau, that big, burly, masculine guy. Let's see what he has to say about him.
So anyway, I love that, and I highly recommend it to you if you can find it. I saw Pragmatic Crystal shared the YouTube link to it. I think it is still available for free that way. But all of his transgressing gender, I think is the subtitle. All of his depictions are really clever and highlight something that's in the story, something that's there that isn't necessarily typically talked about in the stories. And and it just kind of opens something up for me every time I watch him perform. He's opened up something about a story that I hadn't considered, and so I love endorsing his work. Yeah. Okay, so there's that. So I think We're gonna finish telling their story, and then we're having it. Okay. I just love Peterson. He's, one of my favorite people, on the planet. He's just so he's just so funny, and maybe I should have him on for a conversation. Okay, so we're gonna finish this, but, reading that line, right? Isaac loved Esau. He was fond of game. Rebecca loved Jacob. The boys grew up. Esau was a hunter. Jacob was a quiet man living in the tents, and what does that actually say about them, right? And anyway, okay, so once when Jacob was cooking a stew, uh, Esau came in from the field and he was famished. Esau said to Jacob, "Let me eat some of that red stuff, for I am famished." Therefore, he was called Edom. Um, so Edom is the Edomites are the children of Esau. That's where that comes from. Whatever. So let me eat some of that red stuff. And Jacob said, "First, sell me your birthright." It's like they've been planning this, like he'd had this in mind for a while, right? "First, tell me your birthright." And he's like, "I'm about to die. What use is a birthright to me?" Jacob said, "Swear to me first." So he swore to him and sold his birthright to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and lentil stew, and he ate and drank and rose and went his way. Thus Esau despised, as in turned away, his birthright. Now, there was a famine in the land. This happens a lot, doesn't it? Besides the former famine that had occurred in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went to Gerar to King Abimelech of the Philistines, which is where his father went. Abraham went with Sarah, right? The Lord appeared to Isaac and said, "Do not go down to Egypt. Settle in the land that I will show you. Reside in this land as an alien, and I will be with you and will bless you. For to you and to your descendants I will give all these lands, and I will fulfill the oath that I swore to your father Abraham." Sorry. "I will make your offspring as numerous as the stars of heaven, and will give to your offspring all these lands, and all the nations of earth shall gain blessing for themselves through your offspring. Because Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws." Abraham obeyed. So Isaac settled in Gerar. When the men of the place asked him about his woman, he said, "Well, she's my sister." As the father, so does the son. For he was afraid to say "my woman," thinking, "Or else the men of the place might kill me for the sake of Rebekah, because she is attractive in appearance." It does make you wonder, doesn't it? Why this trope is being played out here right? Is it a way of connecting Isaac to the things associated with Abraham, to have him do the same things and have the same thoughts, that just because she's beautiful, they're gonna kill me in order to take her? Is it really a thing? Was it really a thing that they would do that? I don't know. When Isaac had been there a long time, King Abimelech, so he's still king. That's really kind of interesting, right? King Abimelech of the Philistines looked out of a window and saw him fondling his wife, his woman Rebecca. Oh, I forget about all these little nuggets. So Abimelech called for Isaac and said, "So she's your woman. Why did you say she's my sister?" Isaac said to him, "Because I thought I might die because of her." Abimelech said, "What is this you've done to us? One of the people might easily have lain with your woman, and you would have brought guilt upon us." So Abimelech warned all the people, saying, "Whoever touches this man or his woman shall be put to death." It's a very interesting reaction. Isaac sowed seed in that land, and in the same year reaped 100-fold. The Lord blessed him, and the man became rich. He prospered more and more until he became very wealthy. He had possessions of flocks and herds and a great household, so that the Philistines envied him. Now, the Philistines had stopped up and filled with earth all the wells that his father's servants had dug in the days of his father Abraham. And Abimelech said to Isaac, "Go away from us. You've become too powerful for us." So Isaac departed from there and camped in the Wadi Gerar and settled there. Isaac dug again the wells of water that had been dug in the days of his father Abraham, for the Philistines had stopped them up after the death of Abraham, and he gave them the names that his father had given them. But when Isaac's slaves dug in the valley and found there a well of spring water, the herders of Gerar quarreled with Isaac's herders, saying, "The water is ours." So he called the well Issac, because they contended with him. Then they dug another well, and they quarreled over that one also. So it was called Sitnah, enmity. Okay. He moved from there and dug another well, and they did not quarrel over it. So he called it Rehoboth, saying, "Now the Lord has made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land." Sorry, I keep sliding the story up and down. From there, he went up to Beersheba, and that very night the Lord appeared to him and said, "I am the God of your father Abraham. Do not be afraid, for I am with you, and will bless you, and make your offspring numerous, for my servant Abraham's sake." So he built an altar there, called on the name of the Lord, and pitched his tent there. And there Isaac's servants dug a well. Isaac's slaves. Then Abimelech went in to him from Gerar with Ahuzath, his advisor, and Phicol, the commander of his army. Isaac said to them, "Why have you come to me, seeing that you hate me and have sent me away from you?" It's very strong language. They said, "We see plainly that the Lord has been with you. So we say, let there be an oath between you and us, and let us make a covenant with you, so that you will do us no harm, just as we have not touched you and have done to you nothing but good and have sent you away in peace. You are now the blessed of the Lord." So he made them a feast, and they ate and drank. In the morning they rose early and exchanged oaths, and Isaac set them on their way, and they departed from him in peace. That same day Isaac's servants came to him and told him about the well that they had dug, and said to him, "We have found water." He called it Sheba. Therefore the name of the city is Beersheba to this day. When Esau was 40 years old, he took Judith, daughter of Beeri the Hittite, and Basemat, daughter of Elon the Hittite, and they made life bitter for Isaac and Rebekah. So Esau takes two women, and they make things negative between Jacob and Esau. Oh. But they make it bitter for Isaac and Rebekah. Sorry, I lost the names there. Yes, so they make life bitter for Esau's parents, right? I'm not gonna comment on that. Okay, we're gonna end there, even though, yeah, it keeps going, doesn't it? Oh, that was the part I wanted to do. Okay, this is the part. Oh dear, it's a lot. It's more than I'd forgotten there was this much in Jacob's story, or excuse me, Isaac's story, which is really about Jacob and Esau. All right, so do we have it in us to do one more chapter? Yes, we did have Beersheba last time. Yep, we did. And I'm gonna, let's see, what time is it? Okay, let's do this final chapter. I keep thinking, yeah, this is the part. Yep, this is the part I wanted to do too. I just had forgotten there was so much before it. So let's keep going. Okay, get some coffee here. Okay, here we go. Are we seeing this on this? Are you all seeing that? You are. Okay. Isaac blesses Jacob, the wrong son. Okay. When Isaac was old and his eyes were dim so that he could not see, he called his elder son Esau and said to him, "My son." And he answered, "Here I am." He said, "See, I am old, and I do not know the day of my death." Excuse me a second. Now then, take your weapons, your quiver and your bow, and go out to the field and hunt game for me. Then prepare for me savory food, such as I like, and bring it to me so that I may bless you before I die. I just have all these thoughts running through my head about, the demanding things that are happening here, but he's about to get a blessing, so I guess it's okay to ask him to prepare your favorite meal. I don't know. Now, Rebekah was listening when Isaac spoke to his son Esau. So when Esau went to the field to hunt for game for his father, Rebekah said to her son Jacob, I heard your father say to your brother Esau, bring me game and prepare for me savory food to eat, that I may bless you before the Lord before I die. Now, therefore, my son, obey my word as I command you. Go to the flock and get me 2 choice kids, young goats, just so we're clear, so that I may prepare from them savory food for your father, such as he likes. And you shall take it to your father to eat, so that he may bless you before he dies. So, right. So the story itself is telling us that this is Rebekah's idea. And, so we could take a moment to pause and comment on a meta level here, right? That, we didn't have any stories of their childhood. We don't know, any of those kinds of things. But, is it, what's actually happening here? Why is Rebekah being deceitful to her own husband? Why is she choosing one son over the other in this kind of a way? There are 2 different pieces here. One, just it's a narrative to roll with, and then another culturally or just sociologically, anthropologically speaking, right? When you say that the man in a hetero marriage has to be the head, this is what happens when you don't get to have parity. You don't get to have give and take. The people in the system have to be manipulative, right? And so we do see Sarah being cruel and manipulative. We do see Rebekah being manipulative. And it's just worth pointing out, right? Whether or not, people are in these situations, right? Will perpetuate the patriarchy, even if it's not ultimately for their own benefit, but it's just the system they're part of. Whatever. Okay. Anyway. Okay. So she's telling him what to do. It's apparently Rebekah's idea, right? But Jacob said to his mother, look, my brother Esau is a hairy man, and I'm a man of smooth skin. Perhaps my father will feel me, and I shall seem to be mocking him and bring a curse on myself and not a blessing. His mother said to him, let your curse be on me, my son. Only obey my word and go get them for me. So he went and got them and brought them to his mother. And his mother prepared savory food, such as his father loved. Then Rebekah took the best garments of her elder son Esau, which were with her in the house, and put them on her younger son Jacob. And she put the skins of the kids, the goats that she had just skinned, on his hands and on the smooth part of his neck. Then she handed the savory foods and the bread that she had prepared to her son Jacob. I mean, that is a very hairy brother. If goat hair is akin to the hair on your brother's arm. Anyway, so he went in to his father and said, my father. He said, here I am. Who are you, my son? So he doesn't actually spend enough time around Jacob to know his voice. Or is Jacob actually trying to mask his voice, and so it doesn't sound like either of them? Whatever. Anyway, Jacob said, I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Now sit up and eat of my game so that you may bless me. But Isaac said to his son, how is it that you have found it so quickly, my son? And he answered, because the Lord your God granted me success. Then Isaac said to Jacob, come near, that I may feel you, my son, to know whether you are really my son Esau or not. So Jacob went up to his father Isaac, who felt him and said, the voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau. Now I'm cracking up. Really? Did Jacob not even try to imitate his brother? Anyway, he did not recognize him because his hands were hairy, like his brother Esau's hands. So he blessed him. Tricky, huh? Really sneaky. Doesn't take much. Okay, it's just funny. So he said, "Are you really my son Esau?" He answered, "I am." Then he said, "Well, bring it to me that I may eat of my son's game and bless you." So he brought it to him, and he ate, and he brought him wine, and he drank. Then his father Isaac said to him, "Come near and kiss me, my son." So he came near and kissed him, and he smelled the smell of his garments and blessed him and said, "Ah, the scent of my son is like the smell of a field that the Lord has blessed. May God give you of the dew of heaven and of the fatness of the earth and plenty of grain and wine. Let peoples serve you and nations bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be everyone who curses you, and blessed be everyone who blesses you." So really interesting combination of blessings, right? Because this is the promise that God made to Abraham initially back in chapter 12, that God will curse those who curse Abraham and bless those who bless him. So that's an interesting thing. Be Lord over your brothers, and may they bow down to you, right? So that, I mean, in general, is what you would say to none of your children. Like, what? But it is what's said right back in the primeval history, where the flood story, right, when we come out of the ark and they start establishing peoples again. The curse of Ham, right, is that he will serve, his descendants will be enslaved or in servitude to his other brothers' descendants. Anyway, this is nice though, right? May God give you the dew of heaven and the fatness of the earth and plenty of grain and wine. May you be content, right? And let people serve you and nations be Lord over your brothers. Oh, come on. Okay, so that's a relatively nice blessing, I suppose. And then as soon as Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, we speak a thing and it becomes real, right? Saying a thing makes it so. When he just finished blessing Jacob, when Jacob had scarcely gone out from the presence of his father Isaac, his brother Esau came in from his hunting. He also prepared savory food and brought it to his father. And he said to his father, "Let my father sit up and eat of his son's game so that you may bless me." His father Isaac said to him, "Who are you?" He answered, "I'm your firstborn son, Esau." Then Isaac trembled violently and said, "Who was it then that hunted game and brought it to me? And I ate it all before you came, and I have blessed him. Yes, and blessed shall he be." No takebacks. When Esau heard his father's words, he cried out with an exceedingly great and bitter cry and said to his father, "Bless me also, father." But he said, "Your brother came deceitfully, and he has taken away your blessing." Esau said, "Is he not rightly named Jacob? For he has supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and look, now he's taken away my blessing." Sorry, I keep doing that. I don't mean to. Is he not rightly named Jacob? He supplants, right? He took away my birthright, which is an interesting way of summarizing how that whole thing went down, right? He was just hungry, right? Don't make big decisions when you're hungry, angry, lonely, tired, right? Halt. He made big decision while he was hungry. Now he's regretting it. Now he's taken away my blessing. Then he said, have you not reserved a blessing for me? Isaac answered Esau, I've already made him your lord, and I've given him all his brothers as servants, and with grain and wine I have sustained him. What then can I do for you, my son? Esau said to his father, have you only one blessing, father? Bless me also, father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. I find this also very interesting. I have already made him your lord, and I have given him all his brothers as servants. Now, I know that's part of the blessing up here was this thing about may your lord over your brothers and may your mother's sons bow down to you. But I also wonder if that's an allusion to Isaac having concubines, because he doesn't have any brothers. He just has one. I mean, he doesn't have multiple. Anyway, something I never noticed before. Anyway, so rough day for Esau. Rough day for Esau. But also, what a strange thing that a father would only have one blessing, right, for one of his children, and how that is very literally taken, right, as a thing that happens, that you give a blessing, and there can only be one. Then his father Isaac answered him, see, away from the fatness of the earth shall your home be, and away from the dew of heaven on high. By your sword you shall live, and you shall serve your brother. But when you break loose, you shall break his yoke from your neck. These people need some help on the giving assurances. You're gonna live and die by the sword. Oh dear. Anyway, okay. Now, Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing with which his father had blessed him. And Esau said to himself, the days of mourning for my father are approaching. Then I will kill my brother Jacob. But the words of her elder son Esau were told to Rebekah. So she sent and called her younger son Jacob and said, your brother Esau is consoling himself by planning to kill you. Now, therefore, my son, obey my voice. Flee at once to my brother Laban in Haran, and stay with him a while until your brother's fury turns away. Until your brother's anger against you turns away, and he forgets what you have done to him, then I will send and bring you back from there. Why should I lose both of you in one day? Why is she losing either of them? Why is she losing Esau? Why should I lose both of you in one day? Does she mean losing her husband and her favorite son? I don't know. Then Rebekah said to Isaac, I am weary of my life because of the Hittite women. If Jacob marries one of the Hittite women such as these, one of the women of the land, what good will my life be to me? It's a very dramatic thing to say, but we haven't heard anything about the women. It's just they're there in the story, in the background. Then Isaac called Jacob and blessed him and charged him. This is another blessing, different kind of blessing. You shall not take one of the Canaanite women. Go at once to Padan Aram, to the house of Bethuel, your mother's father, and take as a woman from there one of the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother. May God Almighty bless you and make you fruitful and numerous, that you may become a company of peoples. May he give to you the blessing of Abraham, to you and to your offspring with you, so that you may take possession of the land where you now live as an alien, land that God gave to Abraham. Thus Isaac sent Jacob away, and he went to Padan Aram, to Laban, son of Bethuel the Aramean, the brother of Rebekah, Jacob's and Esau's mother. Now, Esau saw that Isaac had blessed Jacob and sent him away to Padan Aram to take a woman from there, and that as he blessed him, he charged him, you shall not marry one of the Canaanite women. and that Jacob had obeyed his father and his mother and gone to Padan Aram. So when Esau saw that the Canaanite women did not please his father Isaac, Esau went to Ishmael and took Mahalat, daughter of Abraham's son Ishmael, and sister of Nebaioth, to be his woman, in addition to the women he had. So he goes and takes from their disowned cousins. Yeah, family dinners must have been really interesting. The personalities of these guys, these twin brothers. Okay, so that's so the other thing I guess I want to say here, right, is, what do we make of Isaac for the way he handled all this? The way I know this is cultural, and there's, so much of it is just keeping it in the family, right? You be you better marry your cousin. Oh, yeah. Yeah. What do we make of this, right? I mean, I don't wanna make too much of it. I just, just it's fascinating, right? That he could be so easily duped, first of all, Isaac. Um Not scoring many points on the comforting as a parent, as a father. Like, okay, you're really disappointed, but guess what? Your life is gonna be even harder than you thought. Not only did I give your other brother my blessing, and there's nothing I can do about it now that it's been uttered. It's out there. We can't revoke that. It's very real. It's magic, right? It's magic. Blessings are magic. But the comforting that he offers is not terribly comforting. What's going on there with do mothers actually ever do that? Do they selectively choose one of their children? What's going on there? Jacob, to me, always reads as a character who's very scheming, right? Very sneaky, just kind of like David, very not someone I'd actually want my children to be around. Jacob, not a fan. Jacob is schemy. All these men, all these people, patriarchs, are just very sneaky and deceptive and manipulative, right? It's just very interesting. And I I kind of reflect on the fact that Sarah and Rebecca are pinned with these choices, right? It's Sarah's idea to force Hagar to have sex with Abram. That's Rebecca's idea. Sorry, that's Sarah's idea, because she needs the children, culturally speaking. Was it really her idea? Or, as several of you have said, she grew up in the culture and she knew that was what needed to be done, or whatever. Not that it's okay. I'm just saying that's the thing that happened. And, so the same thing with Rebecca. Does she see a better leader in Jacob? Does she see someone who's going to do a better job of, is he more sensitive with women, and therefore she just thinks he'd be a better patriarch? Like, I don't, why would Rebecca do that? Two nations in your womb, right? One will serve the other. Anyway, yeah, or writers just blame the women. Yeah, I mean, it's just, yep. This is a great point. This is an interesting point. Thank you, Susan. If dad shows favoritism, mom is close to the rejected kid to comfort them. I think there's something to that, right? And especially since the story itself is saying that the dad liked the game. He liked what Esau did. Yeah. That's an important comment to make, right? She sides with the one that the father has not has ignored, essentially. But the deceptiveness, right? The sneakiness and the deception. It's really interesting. Anyway. Yeah, I thought the same thing. I think the same thing about this story, right? Esau is a bit rash, flying off the handle about, he tricked me out of my birthright or whatever. Well, you sold it to him. You don't know. All kinds of interesting things happening in these stories, right? Thank you for hanging out with me. Those of you who were able to be here, wanted to be here. It's really fun that you've you've kind of hung in here for the whole time. I appreciate that. Any last comments from the people here live? Yes, this is a great comment. A great observation. Not that the others aren't, but thank you, Jeff. Yeah, a lot of mythologies love a trickster, right? And I think Jacob is just way too good at being a trickster. Thank you for that. Oops, this one is the one I was. Thank you for that, Pragmatic Crystal. Yeah, thank you. Thanks all of you who are here. I appreciate the chit chat. Appreciate all the ways that you enjoy the work I'm doing and tell others about it. I appreciate all of those things. Thanks for your support. I every now and then do put things out into TikTok and to Instagram, and you can follow me there if you like. I appreciate all of you who have become members of my channel or who are supporting me over on Patreon. And I think that's it. Thanks for, subscribing to my channel and telling other people about it. I think we're gonna go out. We're gonna wrap this up. Thank you for joining me on a Saturday, those of you who did, and I hope you all have a good rest of your weekend.